Hi, welcome to clickmyproject.com. Now we are going to see the process of SORT, short, a self-organizing trust model for P2P system. Here is the abstract of our process. In P2P systems, building trust relationship among peers can mitigate attacks of malicious peers. So that in that process we have to propose and distributed algorithms that enable a peer to evaluate trustworthiness of other peers based on past interactions and recommendations. So that the trust evaluation is based on two methods. The first one is service and recommendation contest. It is defined to measure trustworthiness in providing services and giving recommendations. The interactions and recommendations are evaluated based on importance, recentness, and peer satisfaction parameters. Additionally, recommenders' trustworthiness can be evaluated based on the recommenders' feedback about that service process. Here we have to calculate the quality of service based on past interactions and recommendations. So these parameters provide us a better assessment of trustworthiness calculation. And finally, good peers were able to form trust relationship in their proximity and isolate malicious peer and achieve high security in overall file sharing process. Here is the DFT of our process. Here first move to one peer selection process. In peer selection process we have to select the peer for interaction process. The interaction process is taken place as two process, upload and download process. In upload process the peer want to share a file to another peer. So after the interaction happen, we have to evaluate the quality of service and also the download process. In download process, if the peer wants to give a download request to another peer means, first of all we have to verify that past interaction and recommendation from that service provider peer. If the past interaction and recommendations are successfully satisfied with that download request peer means, so the peer want to give a download request to that peer. Otherwise means it just give a request to that acquaintance list of that peer, so that the acquaintance peer give the recommendation successfully means, so that the peer send to the request to that service provider peer. So after the download process we have to evaluate the trust matrix of our process. After completing the interaction method we have to evaluate the service matrix, recommendation and reputation process. So the interaction is successfully happen means we have to evaluate the trust value of overall process of service, recommendation and reputation. So finally we have to evaluate the overall evaluation. Here the which peer has a high trust value means the peer is selected as a high efficient trusted peer, so that the transaction is fully focused on that buyer peer. So that we have to evaluate the trust model of that P2P system and achieve high security process. Here is the demo of our process. Here peers are connected. We go to any one peer for interaction. So the by clicking database means the database are successfully connected. So select any one peer for upload process. So the peer 1 starts new interaction. So enter the access node for file sharing. P2 means, so the uploading session starts between peer 1 to P2. So choose any file for sharing process. So by clicking allocate process, the handover session starts from peer 1 to P2. The file is successfully directed to peer 2. So we have to run the P2 process. In P2 we have to run by clicking receive file means the file is received successfully. In peer 1 the file is sent. After receiving that file, so the peer 1 calculates the bandwidth, transmission time and peer 1 type after successfully complete the transaction. So by clicking acquaintance list, the acquaintance list updated for peer 1. Here the peer 1 starts new interaction, so the acquaintance list only the peer 2. So then move to the upload or download process. Then we have to upload another one file from peer 2 to peer 3. So the peer 3 is going to a service provider, so that we have to choose a same file, the other file. So by clicking allocate means the handover session starts from peer 2 to peer 3. So by running peer 3, So by clicking receive file means the file is received successfully. In peer-to, the file is sent. So in peer-to, after complete the transaction, we have to evaluate the bandwidth, transaction time, and peer-1 type, P2 type. So we have to update the acquaintance list means in peer-to, the acquaintance list is P2 and P3. So the file transaction completed to P2 and P3. Here then moves to a download process. Here the pieces are connected, pick anyone peer for interaction. So here we have to select anyone node for download process. Here peer 1 moves to one downloaders, enter the access node for downloading process. So then moves to proceed means here we have to verify the acquaintance list for P3. Here P1 verifies the acquaintance list is P2. So the P3 does not make any interaction to P2. So we have the P1 send a recommendation request to P2 about P3. So by clicking P2, the transaction history is verified. So the P1 to P2, the transactions happen successfully. So the recommendation request sent to P2 about P3. So that run P2. In P2, by clicking receive recommendation bits, so the P3 is selected. So we have the P2 verifies the transaction history of P3. So the transaction is successfully done. So the P2 sent the acknowledgement to P1 about P3. The interaction is done. So by clicking send acknowledgement means so in P1 we have to click receive means the acknowledgement is received. So the P1 decides the P2 is successfully interacted with P3. So the P1 gives a download request to P3. So the P2 select a file, any file for sending a request. So the selected file is attack np.txt. So the P2 is a downloader. So the request is sent to P3. In P3 we have to run the same process. So by clicking receive means the requested file is. So by clicking send means so the file is successfully sent to the P1. In P1 by clicking access means the file is successfully received. So that in that process we have to update the P2. In P2 we have to give a service provider name for downloading process. So in P2 verify the acquaintance list of P3. So the P3 is in acquaintance list of P2. So in this, so this doesn't give the recommendation request to P1. After the before that process we have to calculate the trust value of P1 after successfully complete the transaction. So the trust values of P1 is evaluated. Here by clicking FAJ, the fading effect of the download transaction from P1 to P3 is calculated, and also the competition value and also integrity value, and also the recommendation records. By giving the recommendation process we have to calculate the value of that process. RWM recommendation weighted value, competition value and integrity value, and reputation values are also calculated for that process. In this process is same for our in P2. So this will give the recommendation request to P3. So we directly select the file and give send request to P3. So because it is in the acquaintance list, so the P2 select the anyone node for and give send request to P3. So in P3 receive means the data is received. By clicking send process means the P2 data is sent to P2. Clicking access, the file is received successfully. Then with this process is, then we have to calculate the success value for that process transaction from P2 to P3. So we have to calculate the fading effect and competition value and integrity value. So you have to here, so the values are recommendation weighted value and recommendation competition value and integrity values are also calculated, and also the reputation values are also calculated for that process. So then we have to move that process of P3. In P3 we have to give a name any service provider name for download request. Here we have to verify that P2 in the acquaintance, so that we also doesn't give a recommendation request. So by clicking P1, the successful transaction will happen. So that in P3, select a file from that P2 process, then gives a send request to P2 means in P2 by clicking receive means the requested file is received. So by clicking sending process means the file is sent to P3. So in P3 by clicking accept means the file is successfully received. Okay, so after the transaction successfully completed means we have to verify the trusted values. So the trust value is calculated for the transaction between P2 and P3. Okay, and the competition integrity belief and reputation, competition and integrity belief. Then moves to the next process. Here we have to evaluate the overall service provider selection based on P1, P2, P3 values. Here we have to evaluate the overall trust value for P1, P2, P3. So the P1 trust value, P2 trust value, P3. So you have to evaluate the overall trust. P1 has the higher trust value. So the corresponding graph is displayed for the trust value process. Here in that process we have to identify P1 has a high trust value, so that the P1 has a best service provider, so that choose P1 and select the process and choose very high security.